Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Eat, Meet, and Question Everything. I have my friend Dani Conway here today. We both have our jazz
I
hands.
know.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
I'm
Excited to be
so
here.
I'm so excited to talk with you because I have some things I want to pick your brain about that I haven't talked about on my channel or my podcast before. So, are you ready?
I'm ready. Those are my favorite things to talk about.
Awesome. So some of these are like I personally want to know, and some of them are from other people. Like I put up a question box and I talked about you, I think, on one of my lives on YouTube. So people put some questions into the comments. So let's just dive right in. Okay, here's a controversial one that I hear that having too much protein can actually make you gain weight because I don't know, something is doing with your blood sugar or something. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to realize that too much of anything can make you gain weight. So energy balance is a thing, and we can't take in more energy being calories, macros, proteins, fats, and carbs if people eat them. We can't take in more energy than we expend and not gain on a daily basis. So if we have too much protein, too much fat, or too many carbs, obviously on carnivore, we're not really eating carbs, but just for the sake of the conversation, then we can gain weight. So that's all going to be individual based on the person. And then in terms of protein, yes, there are definitely some people where if they eat too much protein, that can spike glucose, that can cause some insulin issues. And then that would be more on of course, the metabolic side of things. But in general, too much of anything can make you gain weight. So it all has to be in context with the person and the individual.
Okay, that's actually like a good point. And so, okay, everybody's different, but would you because I'm asking this specifically because I don't want to call this one person out, but I was watching their stuff and they seem to think like I feel like a lot of us are at similar macros from what I've seen. Like we're all kind of roughly having like 140 grams of protein, give or take. And I
Mhm.
saw someone saying that like that was too much, that we should be more at around 90. And I was around 90 for, like, the 2 weeks that I tried high-fat carnivore, like the 80-20.
Mhm.
Um, Now I see, your eyebrows raising up. So
I don't have much of a poker face. Sorry.
so I think 90 is too low then, but then this also makes me wonder because when high fat was popular, I feel like last year, wasn't it because some of the carnivores that were doing, and I think like Kelly Hogan was one of them, like their blood sugars were high and they said it was because of too much protein. So I don't understand that.
Okay, so as far as Kelly Hogan goes, I think that she was experimenting. She's experimented with so many different things. I don't know if her blood sugar in particular was high. In the context of high fat, yes, you're gonna, for some people, if they are smaller people and need less nutrients, macros, calories, energy, whatever term you want to use overall, then their ratio of protein in comparison to fat or their grams of protein in comparison to fat are definitely going to be less. So I raise my eyebrows because I don't tend to recommend less than about 100 grams of protein for women, just as a super general loose rule of thumb. There certainly are some individual cases where I might suggest maybe in the 80 to 90 range for whatever reason, for whatever someone has going on. But I also find that even, one of the let's see, what word do I want to use? I guess issues sometimes. Obviously, we talk a lot about under eating in this space as well. And so I think that if someone is high fat, then it's gonna, that total consumption of what they get on a daily basis is going to have to be factored in. And for someone who needs to eat less overall or requires less overall from an energy standpoint, I think maybe in that case, like 80-20 wouldn't be the best option for them. Or if they did absolutely know that 100 grams of protein was too much, they've tested it, they've tested their glucose, they have some data state, knowing that that amount is too high, then maybe making some adjustments. Maybe they do like a higher fat ratio, or they just adjust the macros differently.
Okay, so do you recommend that people are checking their ketones and blood sugar like on a daily basis or a once in a while thing? Because I have the machine and I literally did it once after I got it and I've never done it again.
So I tend to err on the side of once in a while because I think that data is great. And I also see a lot of women who get overly obsessed with ketones and glucose, and that doesn't tell the whole picture. So I always tell people, like, yes, ketosis is a fat burning state, but being in ketosis doesn't guarantee weight loss or fat loss. You have you have to be consuming the right amount of food on a daily basis. You have to be doing the right workouts. You have to be sleeping. You have to be doing all the other things in order for the stars to align so that you can lose weight and fat being in ketosis. As far as glucose goes, I think that, again, super good information to know, super good to check fasted or, after meals if you're looking for other data than your fasted number in the morning. I think that also, like, if someone goes to get a blood draw for blood work, and sometimes there can be factors that might drive their blood sugar up that particular morning that they went to the lab. Maybe they don't like getting needles in their arm. Maybe they hit traffic getting there. Maybe something was stressful that morning that's not a regular occurrence. So I think in especially those cases, looking at trends over time, maybe testing it 3 times a week for a few weeks, but every single day for day, I don't know if you can hear the barking in the background,
Oh,
for
kind
days,
of. It's okay.
days on end. I think that that can be, for some people like data, but for others, I see it get a little bit sort of in the way and have women to focus on just the numbers, just with just what the numbers say and that kind of thing. Off.
Awesome. Yeah. If you guys are not watching right now and you're just listening on the podcast app, you are missing out on a special sneak peek of a new dog that she hasn't shared about yet. Okay, that's good information. Now, can you give us just a general, like, one-on-one 101 on testing that? Like, if you do it in the morning and like what ideal ranges would be if someone wants to try?
Yeah, so optimal blood sugar in the morning that I look for is between, let's say, 80 and 92. And I'm going to qualify that because there are some in the space that will say that the 90s are too high. And I disagree with that. Some people feel better in the low 90s than they do in the 70s or even low 80s. I happen to be one of those people. Here is where the data over time being of value comes in, is that if I test my blood sugar one day and it's 92, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, it's 92, great. However, if I test it now over a 2 or 4 or 6 week period and I see that 92 actually fluctuates to 110 on some days, that's a problem. Just like if someone, if it's 92 and maybe I fluctuate down to the 70s and I'm wondering why my energy is a little bit low in the mornings and I feel a little bit of hypoglycemia kind of things or shakiness, things like that. Those are times where, having more than one day of data can be really helpful over time.
Okay. And is that something you check like right when you wake up before you do anything, or do you give it some time?
I think within the first 5 to 10 minutes of waking is the best as far as fasted blood sugar number. And then, if someone wants to check after meals, you'd be looking for different data after meals, like how quickly your blood sugar returned back to baseline, and what it's doing throughout the day and that kind of thing. So that's going to be a little bit different, but typically fasted unless you're looking for other information.
And do you check to see if you're in ketosis as well in the morning fasted? And then what are the numbers for that are ideal?
Yeah, so optimal for ketone levels would be anywhere from 0.7 to 2.0. Anything higher than that, some people sometimes ask me, oh, my ketones were 4 or 5, which, yes, that's a lot of ketones, but that makes me think, okay, you have high ketone numbers, but why isn't your body utilizing those ketones? So that comes into play with a little bit higher ketones than that. And then what was the second part of the question? I thought.
I was it
Oh,
like when you test?
the timing. So same thing, fasted in the morning is going to kind of show you what your metabolism is doing, what your metabolic health is doing from a ketone perspective. If you test your ketones after meals, you're going to see what that meal effect is on your ketones. So higher fat, maybe it's going to show higher ketones. Post workout, you might actually show lower ketones because maybe you utilize those ketones during the workout but haven't built them back up again. So there's a few different scenarios there as well.
Okay, cool. I think I might actually check mine in the morning just for shiggles because I have no idea like where mine
Yeah.
are at. Okay, so I have two that I'm really excited to talk to you about. We'll save it for the end, but
Okay.
here's the next one that people were asking recently is HRT, being on that, your thoughts on it in general, and if you're carnivore, do you necessarily need that? And that I should have Googled, but is it hormone replacement therapy?
You're so cute. Yes.
Okay.
HRT stands for hormone replacement therapy. Uh, every time I refer to HRT, I'm actually referring to BHRT, which stands for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So first and foremost, I am a big believer in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I'm also a big believer in making sure that it's done at the correct time for that person. So I see a lot of women crash, so to speak. They've tried bioidentical or let's just say HRT and they, feel great for a short period of time and then they don't feel great anymore or symptoms return. Or they get onto that therapy and they actually gain weight instead of lose weight when they were told that the therapy was supposed to help them with body composition, weight loss, belly fat, things like that. So the thing about hormone therapy is that our digestion, our liver detoxification, uh, inflammatory markers, other things that are happening in the body have to be addressed first in order to get the most benefit from any type of hormone replacement therapy. So, for example, when I work with clients, I'm always looking at their digestive function, their liver detoxification, making sure their drainage pathways are open, looking at all kinds of bacterial markers, blood work, functional testing, all that kind of stuff. And then throughout the protocol, when we work on all of those things, I actually see uh, hormone levels improve just working on all of that because we're actually working on hormones indirectly, right? Then at the point in time that we get to the actual, point of their protocol that we're supposed to work on hormones, then we actually even get better results because they've already done the cleanup work with the gut, the digestion, metabolic inflammation, different things going on, and then the hormones can respond accordingly. At that point, I do think that there are and yes, I know we're carnivore, but I'm going to say herbally based protocols that can be super helpful. Number one, if someone doesn't want to go onto specific hormone replacement, or number two, if someone wants to utilize that first and then transition into some type of hormone replacement therapy as an adjunct to starting on a basic hormone protocol.
Okay. Awesome.
So I have more.
Okay. I'm learning because I haven't dove down this because I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah.
As far as I mean, because this is all stuff after or like going through menopause, right?
Yeah. And I have I fall in the middle. I don't think that, everyone should do hormone replacement therapy, and I don't think that everyone should not do it. And where it gets a bad rap and, estrogen has been given a bad rap because of all the things that, have been said over the years and a lot of that has been disproven. But we don't realize estrogen is actually super protective for women, for joint health, for brain health. Testosterone, of course, libido, body composition, energy, motivation. Progesterone has its place, and all those hormones have to be in the correct balance to each other in the correct ratios. Sometimes I see clients who come to me and they're like, oh, I'm on this replacement therapy. No one did any testing. They just gave it to me based on symptoms. Okay, my head's gonna explode with that because what do? Test, don't guess all the time to really see where levels are because two people can present with the same symptoms and their labs can look completely different. Therefore, the protocols would be completely different. So back to the question, the HRT, definitely a believer in it. And I think that too much too soon is definitely a problem. So it has to be in context of the person, what's going on for them, what they're already doing, and then looking at diet. So you asked about carnivore. I mean, I've approached all of the things that I do with clients and myself personally on my own journey from a food first. So if food isn't right, nothing else can be right. That's where Nutrition the Natural Way, the name of my practice, came from, is really dialing in the food, the macros, the getting all the like overcrowding all the bad foods, I don't like to use the term bad foods, but let's just say processed foods, getting all that stuff out, making sure that someone is eating the ideal amount of animal-based foods, whatever that macro ratio is, and then kind of, building on that foundation, because if that foundation isn't right, nothing else can be right. You can't you can't not be dialed in with food and then expect to take some hormones and have it fix all the problems.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because then you're just trying to like, put a
Yeah.
Band-Aid on
Band-Aid,
something
yeah, exactly.
and not get to the root. Okay, so I'm excited to ask you about this one because I purposely have not done my research on this because I want to hear your thoughts.
Uh-oh.
And and I see it a lot and I haven't gotten there yet. I feel like there's only, baby steps on fixing all these things and going down these rabbit holes. So I see iodine being talked about a lot and it seems to be like a blanket statement that everybody needs it, we should all use it, but I don't think you agree with that, 100%. So, like, tell us all the things, like, because I know nothing about iodine, and I actually have people tell me that, like, I should be taking it. And I'm like, but why are you even telling me that? Like, what makes you even think that I need it? So tell us
Right.
all the things, please.
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to me not having a one size fits all approach. And so, there's so many blanket recommendations that are made that are really great for a lot of people. And there's a lot of blanket recommendations that don't work for a lot of people. It doesn't mean the recommendations are inherently wrong. It just means that one size doesn't fit all. And I know, like, I've had clients tell me that that is what I just explained is like one of the most frustrating things, because they just want to follow what one person says and they want it to work and live happily ever after, but that's just not the case. So, with iodine, I see, a lot of, I've seen myself personally, full disclosure, um, hot flashes, insomnia were my two main issues. And I repeated the experiment three separate times to make sure that it was the iodine that actually caused it. And I repeated the exact same thing 3 times. I've had clients go on iodine based on the general recommendations, and they've had the same type of symptoms. They've also had thyroid blood work, maybe a few weeks after starting the iodine to a few weeks to 6 weeks to 2 months after, and they've seen their thyroid numbers all over the place when things weren't even that bad prior to starting the iodine. So it's something that I've even considered, and I'm kind of working on some updates right now, but actually doing more iodine testing with almost every client, because there are so many blanket recommendations. And the other thing too is, let's use food sources. Like, so where else can we get, I'm a big variety, I'm a big fan of variety even within carnivore. So if someone doesn't have to be lion diet and they can have other foods that they tolerate, I'm a big fan of, seafood and lots of different varieties. So let's look at where we can get it from food sources first, and then, if someone does need to supplement, then go for it. I also think if you're doing great on iodine supplementation, don't stop just because I just said one size doesn't fit all. Again, it just is individual.
Now, why are people turning to it though? Like, what are symptoms people are having that makes them think they need to have iodine?
I am not sure.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Thyroid symptoms in general.
Okay.
Because I can't answer why the general population that looks at YouTube sees that they should take that sees that they should take iodine and then starts it. But energy, sleep issues, typical thyroid issues, weight gain, can't lose weight, those are probably the top ones. So I shouldn't say I don't know. I should say the typical thyroid complaints, because that's what iodine is related to.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, here's the last one that I have for you. And so I'm almost a little nervous to talk about this because I haven't said anything about it yet because I've newly like come to the realization that I have had this. So hair loss, I
Mm,
think, is a common thing. And I recently have realized because I always have my hair up. And within the last couple months, I'm like, oh gosh, like my hair is definitely thinned, but I see a lot of regrowth. Now, like, I mean, probably if you're watching, I know, like to like here, like I can tell. And I've even like my hairdresser sees it too. So it's not me just like wishful hoping that my hair is coming in. And so I've just been told that it's just a stressor from weight loss and it's not necessarily like deficiencies from carnivore, but I do see people say this a lot and comment that they're losing their hair. So what is that all about? What can we do? Is it common?
yes. Okay. So all of the above. So we should add hair loss to that list of symptoms that I just gave on the thyroid side of things, because hair loss can definitely be a thyroid symptom. Hair loss can, I mean, what I have seen, biotin deficiencies, other B vitamin deficiencies, malabsorption, leaky gut, low protein. Well, I shouldn't say low protein intake, because somebody can have high or regular protein intake for what their body needs, but if their gut is leaking or they have digestive issues that they may or may not know about, they may not actually be absorbing and utilizing all the protein that they're actually eating. Not enough calories or macros or energy, however you want to word it, overall. So under eating or history of under eating. Yes, back to your original question, dieting, weight loss can be a stressor on the system, not eating enough, not sleeping, cortisol issues, any kind of a stressor can cause hair loss to happen, because that is a stressor response, if you will. So it's hard, it's mineral imbalances. There's another one. So either electrolytes or full spectrum minerals. I know we are both huge fans of the liquid minerals. Can I say the name?
Yeah.
The beam minerals. We're both huge fans of those. I've had many clients that have tried everything and they have added those, and that helps. And so it just is, there could be so many things that cause hair loss, which is why it can be so frustrating for women, especially.
Yeah, because it's like, how do how do you fix it? But I guess like to just throw, a net over everything would be just make sure you're eating enough, get your electrolytes and and hope for the best, calm your stress.
Yeah, calm your stress. I mean, look into, if someone has had like a history of digestive issues, IBS, IBS is just a general diagnosis for not really figuring out what the root cause is, food
Mm,
sensitivities. So if someone has food sensitivities, that's another area where it's super, don't get me wrong, super helpful to take out the sensitive foods, because then you're removing that inflammatory load of those sensitive foods off the body, but that is not the root cause of the problem. So
yeah, that makes so much
unpopular,
sense.
unpopular opinion number, God only knows, because I have a lot of them.
No, that's good. Okay, this has been like jam-packed full of good stuff. I'm excited. But so before we wrap it up, let's tell everybody where they can find you. And then I want to ask you one last thing. So before we say all that, I just want to say if you need any extra help, 100% like go to Dani. She offers her services. I've worked with her on the weight loss accelerator program. I lost weight. So that were maybe I should come back to that since I'm struggling lately. She's
Let
amazing. I
let me help you, my dear.
seriously, she is my go-to. Like if there would be any health issue, knock on wood with me, if I had any sort of problem, I would go to her and I do bug her already if I have questions and stuff. So that being said, what do you offer and where they can find you?
Yeah, so my website is nutritionthenaturalway.com. I work with clients on a group basis, so that is my weight loss accelerator program. I run that program a few times a year. We're actually in the middle of one right now, so I have a priority list for registration for the next one that's going to start, which from the time that we're recording this, it will be probably about midsummer. I run that a few times a year. I work with clients one-on-one in my practice, so I can help there where we dive in more on macros and dialing in all of the different weight loss strategies to functional testing, blood work, lab analysis, protocols, all of that good stuff based on all of your lab testing. And then of course, Instagram, I try to stay in my stories regularly. Courtney and I were just talking about that. And I do have a group on or a couple of groups on Facebook as well, Carnivore and Keto groups on Facebook.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so not to put you on the spot,
Oh,
but what what's like one of just something that you want to like leave us with and share, like if something that's a hot topic right now or whatever like comes to mind, just to give them something else.
yeah. So I feel like it's okay if not everything you try out there that's on YouTube works, right? So I think that sometimes we have to shut out all the noise out there and reflect back internally into your intuition and really look at what's inside because we often have the answers, but we get so jaded by all of the noise that's out there that and I don't have the quote with me right now, but there's a quote that I always read to my accelerator gals, and it has to do with shutting out all the noise. Because sometimes we do have to do that. And we have to take a step back and look internally and remember that we have an awesome internal voice and think to ourselves, okay, what is that voice saying? And clear the muddy water and just take a step back, get some fresh air, and then kind of, figure out what the next step should be.
Okay, I feel like that was 100% directed at me that I needed to hear that for sure. No, that's so good and it's so true. I mean, I think a lot of the times, we're reaching outside of ourselves for other people's opinions and validation and this and that when it's like, okay, just like let your mind get quiet and just like think and, figure it out ourselves sometimes. We have all this information. Now let's figure out like what to do with that information and what feels right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yay. Thank you so much for joining us today. So
You're
amazing.
welcome.
I think
Thank you for
everybody
having me.
I think everybody learned a lot. I know I did. I'm gonna actually like I don't tell the others, but I don't typically re-listen to these as they come out, but I'm gonna listen to this one and take notes because yeah, there's some things that I need to do from this one. So thank you so much.